Hello, 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 and welcome to the Blue Oval Podcast. I am Ben Weiso, and joining me, as always, Garrett Zylan. How's it going, man?
Ben, to me, Penn relays is like the official start of the spring. That's how I view the Penn relays. It just there's a special place in my heart. Did you ever compete the Penn relays when you were growing up?
I didn't. Always thought it would be cool. Almost did Drake, which also would have been cool, but ended up not being able to do that. There is something magical about, and this is why a lot of I mean, we're gonna see hopefully more and more teams that are set up to compete for these kind of relays with the consolidation of like talent that we're probably going to be seeing over the next couple of years. These relays could get really interesting because like for me, we never really had the team to be able to compete. If we had, I would have loved to have been in the mix in some of these races.
Yeah, no, they're a ton of fun. The thing that I loved the most about it is that like my high school was always like a very well known 800-meter power,
Mm.
right? But I was a long distance guy and I was like a 2 mile guy. So they're like, Garrett, you are going to be the alternate, which means that you get to screw around at the meet all day, don't have to do anything, and you get off of school and you get to watch the races. So for 4 straight years, I would just be like, this is
You
the
got alternate all 4 years.
all 4 years. It just worked out that
Wow.
way. I was like a 203 guy, and they're like, yeah, you're fine. But like, which back then, 203 was like
It's pretty
pretty
good.
decent. It was
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
decent.
Yeah.
But they're like, yeah, you're okay. But like, we have a 151 guy and a handful of dudes. Like, how about you sit this one out and prepare for the 2 mile? So yeah, that was the greatest thing about Penn Relays is I got all 4 years, didn't have to do anything, and got to enjoy it. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
That's funny. I had another lead in for Penn Relays, and I was gonna say, going along with our brand of comparing everything to other sports, I was gonna call Penn Relays like the NBA Cup of the season, where it's like,
Oh, I like
hey,
that.
it's not at the championship, but it is a big deal. And some schools, some teams are more into it and take it more seriously than others. And it's always going to be something that people remember, and you could have even more memorable moments at Penn Relays than you could at a national championship in some cases.
Oh, I like that a lot. This is great. And it all ties back to us being from Philadelphia. Like it all works
Yes,
out. So,
exactly.
all right, cool. Did we get any ratings and reviews? I don't think I saw any.
We did get one on Spotify. We're up to
Oh,
194. So we're about to close in on 200, which is awesome on Spotify. Apple, we are still at 0. It looks like I'm going to be needing to take another week off for that number to go up again. So yeah, get
I
me
didn't want to
ratings and
say it.
reviews just so that I feel a little bit better about myself and feel like I don't need to quit the podcast for the sake of the podcast.
Yeah, it would be a worthy sacrifice, but neither here nor there. Ben, Penn Relays, this is so we have a handful of individual performances. We'll talk about the performances. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't, there's only like maybe one or two results that we can really talk about and have it really mean anything. The relays don't mean anything for the championships because there is no 4 by mile or 4 by 15. There is no DMR. There is no 4 by 8 at the national meet. But I think it's also fair to say that for whatever reason, the Penn relays is still the one, maybe only meet that's not a championship where you actually race straight for pride. And it's just that. So from a historical prestige, from a pride standpoint, those are important races, and we will talk about them. But on the individual side, let's knock those out first. Where should we start?
Let's start with I think arguably one of the most impressive results of the weekend, if not one of the most surprising, and that is Lexy Halladay-Lowry's 9:18 in the steeplechase. Fantastic run from her, but this is coming. Run 14:52 in the 5K. She's been on fire this entire year. It's not surprising to see her in her main outdoor event run an incredibly great time.
She ran 9:22 in the steeplechase last year at the Olympic trials as Ben sneezes. But she, you okay? You had to shake that one off? Okay,
Yeah,
excellent.
a little something in my throat. So yeah, we're working through
Like
that.
I said, it's the start of the spring season. But 9:18, it's like, it's great. But it's like the least surprising result that I think we could have expected this weekend. NCAA number 5 all time. Um, the questions I think that we had initially about this and about her don't really change that much. Um, I think it's fair to suggest that Lemngole and Kosgei will run the 5K in some capacity. but it's a question of will they run the Steeple 5K double or will they run the 10K 5K double? Regardless, despite Halladay-Lowry running 9:18, I think she must scratch out of the steeplechase to be fresh for the 5K because that gives her an advantage over Kosgei and Lemngole and her best chance for gold.
Yeah, I definitely hear that logic. How fast would she have needed to run in the steeplechase for you to say, hey, she should focus in on that?
9:14, 9:15, which I think
Okay,
she
yeah,
can because she more or
yeah.
less dominated this field.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like how because I don't know what you think about this, but I see her and Kosgei is like roughly equivalent in a lot of ways. They're
Yeah,
very similar. They could race 10 times. I think each of them could win five. Like
agreed.
maybe one of them wins six. Maybe one of them wins 4 times. But yeah, so I see her on a similar plane. It's just like how close does she get to Lemon that you actually think there's an actual shot and 918 definitely does not prove again proves that she's one of the best runners in the country. She's just not Doris Lemngole.
And even now, as I say this, as I'm just like, you know what, she could run 9:11, and I'm still not confident that she should do the
Yeah,
steeplechase.
yeah.
Like it just logistically from the pure sense of do you want to compete for a national title and give yourself the best shot? Strictly in terms of that, it doesn't make sense to do the steeplechase. It makes sense to go all in for the 5K because it's highly likely that the steeple will be a battle between Kosgei and Lemngole. I don't know why you would want to jeopardize that.
Do you think Kosgei's definitely going to run the steeplechase?
No, I think she could run the 10K 5K double
Yeah.
very easily. I think that's plenty doable. In fact, I almost am inclined to believe that she will over the steeple. I can because I think the 10K could go to Kosgei, the steeple could go to Doris,
Yeah.
and the 5K is kind of like a crapshoot. But if Halladay-Lowry's fresh for it, I would maybe pick her.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody just avoid Lemon Goal in her main event and try to get a championship where you can.
I feel like Oprah, like you get a national title and you get a national title. Everybody gets a national title, and that would be great because I think all three are deserving of a national title.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. That seems like the most just result. Moving on to another strong result, and this one definitely changes the way we see this particular athlete, I think, at least for this season, and that is Sadie Sigstead's 32:39 in the 10K. We had seen her put together a very strong fall season, but we didn't really see much of her, at least at the level we would have expected during the indoor season. She comes out, runs 32:39, really strong result in the 10K, puts her in position to potentially be an All American in that event. I mean, do you think that she is an All American now at this
No,
point? Or, okay.
I think she's an All American contender. Like, would it surprise me if she ends up as a back end All American? No,
Yeah.
but that like the 30, it's a weird dynamic between like she ran 32:39, which is competitive and a good time, but it's also not what it used to be. Like that's not even 32:39 right now puts her at NCAA number 16 on the national
16.
leaderboard.
Yep.
16. So not only that, but she like dominated a field. Like she crushed this field. She wasn't pushed. So on one hand, I'm like, well, who is she beating? Like she also had three straight DNFs prior to the Virginia Challenge where she just ran you know. But now she runs 32:39, a big statement win. And I think she can go faster. But who is she beating? Like it's a weird dichotomy of like, I don't really know how to feel about her right now, but I do know that there is greater optimism about where I thought she once was compared to now. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, she's put herself in the picture, right? And before this result, she wasn't on our radar as someone who could realistically challenge for an All-American spot, right? Coming into the season, you could have said, "Hey, if you told me that she runs 32:30 something," it's like, okay, yeah, I could absolutely see that happening, but we just needed to see it before we put her in that category. So really good to see her back at top fitness, and yeah, exciting to see what she can do when she's actually pushed, right? Um, and in that 10K field, it's going to be really interesting because as we're pointing out, it is very deep. And one of the women who's at the very top of that deep field is Grace Hartman, who just ran 407 and just continues just to be excellent in absolutely everything she does. It is we don't talk about her enough as one of the like best range is an athlete who has one of the most range in the entire country.
No, I agree. I mean, it's um yeah, I don't really know if I have anything honestly more to offer. I mean, like, she's great. We knew she was capable of this. She ran 4:24 in the mile during the winter months. She will not run this event, or at least it's highly unlikely that she will run this event.
Yeah. No.
She could run the 5K 15 double, but that makes zero sense. Do the 10K 5K double as she was fully expected to. Um, but yeah, like,
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
She looks very potent though at the end of like races. These
Yes.
1500 meters performances have shown that hey, if she's in contention and it's not like it's not super fast 5K 10K, she's going to be one of the more dangerous runners going into that final lap.
How highly could you see her finishing at the national meet in any event?
I mean, based off of what we were just all talking about, like with hey, people kind of separate. You don't see Halladay-Lowry and Kosgei and Lemngole all like running multiple events at least somewhat fresh. I think you could see her finish second, and certainly the 10K. I think that's certainly in the cards. And I think in the 5K, there's an outside chance as well. If you're talking about all those women could be like I mean, all those women could potentially be coming off of a steeplechase if they decide to run that. I think she could take down them if she's relatively fresh compared to the women who have run that day and finish in the top two.
Okay, so I'm going to move us off of this because I think this is an interesting talking point. So the New Mexico men and women,
Hmm.
uh, specifically Hatem Samuel, Ishmael Kipkiri, Pamela Kosgei, went after some fast 10K times at altitude and got really quick conversions. It's not surprising. We saw these guys and women run super fast at the Sound Running 10. That, however, did not technically count towards a national qualifying performance.
So dumb.
So yeah, which is like, I get like, on one hand, I'm like, hey, if you're the 10, make it an eligible meet, like, which I don't understand. But on the other end, like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I
I
get it.
hate it.
You have to follow NCAA rules. I get it.
Yeah.
But the one, like, the Mexico men super fast, great. But Kosgei ran a converted 30:55 in the 10K. Let me ask you this. Let's say Kosgei wins the 10K national title, and then Lemengole wins a steeple title, and then they get second and third or third or whatever in the
Yeah.
5K. Whatever the combination is. If they each win a national title at the national meet, who is the MVP of this season right now?
Yeah, and I knew you were headed that direction. I think in that situation, it's a tie, and the tie goes to who I think the better runner is, and that's going to be Lemongolo for me. Like I understand. I think if you look at the entire season's worth of performances, I think Kosgei has the edge. I think certainly going into the national championships, just the volume of racing that she's done and the just overwhelming great performances she's done every single time she has touched the track. Whereas Lemengole hasn't run quite as much. But I still am going. I would still go Lemengole because I just think she's and I think has proven to be the better runner.
So here's the thing. I would go into that vote being like, I agree. I think Lemengole is the better runner. But if I'm being objective and fair based on what I've seen this spring season, just as we vote for every
Yep.
end of season awards kind of deal, if I am being fair and the season ended today and that scenario happened, Kosgei gets my vote
Hmm.
because there's nothing to suggest that in this season alone, Lemengole was definitively better in a collective resume sense.
I mean,
This season
running nine
alone.
10 in the steeplechase. I agree that she didn't just run she doesn't run a blazing fast 10K yet,
Okay, but
but
Kazi's has run converted 30:35 and 31:02. Yeah. She's run 9:15. She's run
mhm,
14:52. Like, I don't she's beaten Halladay-Lowry straight up. We're each assuming they get a national title, right? I'm
yeah.
sure, Lemengole will run mid 1450s or low 15s,
Right. I guess
but
that's what I'm baking it. It's like I'm baking in like, all right, they both run equivalent 5Ks. all right, maybe Kosgei ends up having the much faster 10K, but Lemngole is going to have the NCAA record probably by a good bit over Kosgei in the steeple. Like I think at that point it's like it's close enough that I'm willing to say, at least I don't think it's overwhelming in Kosgei's direction that I would say I'm going to vote for her because even though she's not the better runner.
All right, moving this off of this. James Corrigan, BYU, 8:30 in the steeplechase. I think he's just clearly trying to peak for the postseason. No shocker here. And then
I really
Solana,
like how they're I really like
go ahead.
how they're setting him up this season.
I do too.
I think it's a really smart move. He's going to have a more extended season after national championships. You would imagine, and I think just easing him into it, having his first race be late April, he doesn't. I mean, he's going to be coasting through a lot of these performances until he gets to the national championship. So no reason to push too hard.
Quick correction. This is his third race of the season. He's run
Is it
eight.
really already?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's run 8:40 in the steeple and he's run 13:27 in the 5K.
Okay.
But also like this is maybe the only relevant result.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
and like even then, I don't even know how relevant this result is. So, Solana Yildiz, Oregon, 425 mile converts to about 405 for 1500 meters. Do we care?
Really good performance, but doesn't tell us really anything new about Solana Yildiz.
She's really, really good, like really talented. We'll see how the tactics go on the national stage. So,
Yep.
all right, Penn relays. We got 6 different races, technically 4 different events. Where do you want to start? You tell me. Where do you want to start?
We got to start with the men's 4x mile. This one, in terms of, I really don't think we've ever seen the quality of anchors all be together in a final of a relay ever. Honestly, like you're talking about 2 3:48 men. So you have the indoor mile record holder. You have the outdoor 1500 meter record holder in Liam Murphy. And then you have Nathan Green, who's coming off a runner-up finish and is one of the favorites in that event. I mean, Strand, Martin, Green, Murphy. That's as good as a quartet as you're ever going to be seeing at the end of a relay. And they were all right there. They were all in position to win it. It was right there in front of them, and it was thrilling to watch them just kind of jockey around for like 1,200, really almost like 1,300 meters, and then just see the massive surges. It was a thrilling finish at the end with Nathan Green taking home the win for Washington. Villanova finishing second with Liam Murphy, North Carolina third, and Virginia fourth. The only really surprising part was Martin was really never a huge factor in this race. He sat there, he was biding his time when the surges went. He wasn't ever really able to pass anybody. That was one of the big surprises in my end. But overall, just a thrilling race. This is why we love the Penn relays. Why we love these kind of situations where it just comes down to who. It doesn't matter how fast you run. It just matters if you can win, and it most resembles a national championship because of that. And we saw, I think, Nathan Green raise his stock more than almost anybody this weekend by taking home this win.
I was going to say, so like you're talking about those anchors, right? It's 2 3:48 milers. It's the collegiate 1500 meter record holder who's run 3:33. And none of those 3 men have won a national title in the 1500 meters or the mile, which is an absurd thing to say.
Yeah.
The only person who has of that group is the 4th guy, who's a 350 miler, who's won the 1500 title. 15.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. 15. Nathan Green, his kick, not just in the 4x mile, but in the DMR as well,
Yeah.
was so unbelievably lethal. I mean, to the point where I go like, whoa, like like that is like an absurdly like strong stride to be having. Like that's pretty, it was pretty wild. Like it was a pretty strong stride. And these are the races like where last year we saw Liam Murphy assert some of his kicks and we're like, I don't know how you beat that. How do you try to reconcile the idea that like Murphy, we saw how that kind of ended for him and how his kicks did or did not translate. but we just saw Nathan Green put down two scary good kicks. How are you trying to reconcile those two aspects?
Yeah, I think the difference there is one, this field is way better
It was, yeah.
than last year's. And so winning this race means a lot more this year than it did last year. Secondly, Nathan Green has proven that he can win a national championship. So it's not as if this is showing us that he can do something that he couldn't do before, which is maybe what we were projecting with Liam Murphy. This is more of saying, hey, no, he's at the top of his game. He can win another title, right? And so I think that's what makes this situation a little bit different. And I mean, we have to say this, that it is still the end of April, right? These guys are all going to develop differently over the next 6 weeks and be in different spots when it actually matters, right? So it's like at this moment, you would say absolutely Nathan Green looks like probably the favorite, a small favorite, but the favorite. But in 6 weeks from now, we could be saying no, it doesn't look like he's at the top of his game the same way that he was on April 26th, right? So again, there's still a lot of the season left, but from what he's shown so far, this was one of the most impressive performances that you'll ever see in a regular season race.
He is so impressive, just the way that he can find. You think he's in that last gear, and then he, for whatever reason, like can make the thing that he can do is that he makes hard cut moves like to the outside of a shoulder, right? And then he can still accelerate off of that. Like there's things that are just like unnatural about certain body movements that should not allow you to move as fast as maybe he does. But he jutted out in one of these races and still had another surge behind it and kept his balance at the finish line. I thought it was crazy impressive. I have a question that I wanted to ask you here. So this race, Washington wins this in 1624. Without looking, who ran faster? Was it Washington 1624 or was it the 2015 team of Villanova and Oregon? When they went 1-2 and Williams upset them, and Williams and Chesrick were literally jogging on the anchor leg. Who ran faster?
Yeah. I would have assumed that this year they ran faster, but the way you're setting this question up makes me think that might not be the case. So but I'll still stick with, I think this year was faster.
2015 was faster by how much?
2 seconds.
6 seconds.
Wow, really? They ran 16:18 despite that jog fest?
Yes, which is such a crazy thing. Like we go back and we're like, what a crazy, slow, stupid race. This was 6 seconds slower as the winning time.
So those first 3 legs must have been just so much faster. Like they must have come through 3 miles at significantly faster.
So like Villanova's winning time of 16:18 back in 2015 was 4:02, 4:01, 4:01, and
Yeah.
their fastest split on that relay was Pat Tiernan, which is hilarious.
That's awesome.
That is great. Whereas Washington went 4:08, 4:07, 4:01, 4:06.
Yeah.
They just made it all
Yeah.
up on the anchor. So
Yeah. So I do want to quickly go back to the point you were making about Green and his kick. I don't think it's an argument to say that he definitively has, in my mind, the best form out of those 4 guys. I think Strand is probably a close second, but I think that we really got you really, and he's just a shorter guy, right? So when you're seeing him jut out and make angles, he can do that
that's
a little
true.
bit more easily,
Yeah.
right? And the acceleration is a little bit easier for him because, again, his strides are smaller. But I think his form is just so excellent. And you talk about guys like Liam Murphy, who's a little bit more unorthodox, Martin with kind of a more loping stride, right?
Yep.
I think you see that the benefit of that form, and also just the shorter legs really come through for Green when he needs to accelerate. Now, the fact that he can maintain that top end speed is all the more impressive. Despite those things like that, I'm saying that he has shorter legs, right? Usually that indicates, hey, you can accelerate really really well, but in terms of maintaining that top end speed, that can be a little bit more difficult. But he like broke Strand. like Strand's form broke
Yeah.
going in the last 15 meters, and Green was able to maintain his, and that's ultimately I think what really decided it. And that's something we don't talk much about on this show about like just the form of the runners, but I want to highlight that with Green because I think that was really what made the biggest difference.
I completely agree. The form of Strand broke, and that was. I think he was caught a little off guard by Green jumping around to
Yeah,
him. He's like, I thought I maybe had him. I'm trying to react, and this is a little bit of a chaotic moment. So his form did break, but I don't know if that was so much so about like how the race unfolded as much as it was just the trying to properly react.
sure.
But yeah, I agree. I mean, great races overall. Thought it was excellent. Let's move off of 4 by mile. 4 by 15. Let's talk about that. Where I believe it was the Providence women, where Cara Laverty gets the baton, does shockingly well, keeps Providence
Yeah.
near the leaders, and then they hand it off to Shannon Flockhart, who pulls away, and that's the race. Providence brings it home, 16:59. They comfortably win. I thought Shannon Flockhart was in the women's relays the MVP of this entire meet.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Providence's lineup and you compare it to Washington's, right? Providence had Cara Laverty, Flockhart, May, and Millard, compared to Washington's Cochran, Matug, O'Sullivan, and Forster. And you're like, how in the world is this a like just a blowout for Providence? Like, if you would have said, you looked at those lineups and said, hey, someone's going to win by 11 seconds, they're like, all right, well, good job, Washington. You guys had a
Yeah.
really good race.
Yep.
But it's just mind blowing to me that Millard got the baton and it was over. The race was done. And that is stunning considering that Washington's lineup has so many women who have run well under 410 in the 1500. It was, I mean, just an incredible performance and a very smart move by Ray Tracy, putting Flockhart in May in the middle and pushing out that lead, giving themselves that opportunity to build what ended up being an insurmountable lead because if you go pound for pound, like they just weren't as good. They needed to figure out a way to get an edge, and they were able to do it with their lineup structure.
I agree. I think it was great. I thought the lineup structure made sense. I think Laverty running as well as she did and holding on to or close to the lead pack at least was pivotal in terms of setting this up. And it's like I just don't know though, like why the rest of the field just let Flockhart go. That was the
I mean,
race. She
Matug
just
is
went.
Matug is maybe not as good as I mean, like you could make an argument, I think one way or the other, but it's close. Like there shouldn't be that much separation. She should be able to go with her.
Matug's been running better than Flockhart as of late.
Yeah, that's yeah.
I
I mean,
mean,
this
just
this
generally
it's
speaking.
Windor. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, so it's I don't know. Like I don't really understand it. Like congrats to Providence, but Flockhart between that and between her DMR leg, where she also gained significant separation. Um, I thought she really needed this. I thought Flockhart really, really needed this. She had been struggling a lot in her last few outings, and I figured we would see her back again and back in full form, but this was needed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Awesome performance. Not a whole lot to say, right? I mean, Georgetown ended up finishing third. I, I just think disappointing race from Washington as a whole, and really good performance by Providence.
Real quick, why are we running the 4 by 15 and not the 4 by mile for the women?
Is it just to have similar ish times with the men's 4 by mile? That's literally the only reason I can think of.
This makes no sense. Run the 4 by mile. Run the 4 by mile. It makes zero sense. There's no splits. Why do we not have splits? You know why? Because it's the 4 by 15. It makes zero sense. So I don't know. All right, that's it. Let's go on. Which relay do you want to talk about next?
We'll go to men's DMR where we saw. Let's see. I wish this would pull up. There we go. Washington take home the win, and again, it was another great Nathan Green kick to take home the win over Oregon, who I will say I liked what I saw out of Reinhardt Harrison here.
Yeah, I agree.
Going toe to toe with one of the best, if not the best, miler in the country, and lost, but put up a good fight. Right, runs 356, runs a 356 split, kept Oregon right in it to the very end. I thought this was a very strong performance from Harrison, and also very interesting that they went with him instead of Beer Bomb and the anchor. Like gives you a little bit of insight into what that Oregon staff thinks about those two guys.
Oh, I love that take. Yeah, that's a great take. I agree. I think they're. I don't even know how else to like describe that, but yeah, I think they're maybe think like, hey, Beerbaum will take him against that field that he's selectively going to be racing against, but also like I think they believe in Harrison. They believe in Harrison quite a bit actually. So
Yeah.
I like this a lot. Thought Washington ran well. Oregon ran exceptionally well. I thought Texas A&M ran really really well.
Yep.
Villanova, it hurt my soul to see Marco Langone run as well as he did, and those middle legs blew up,
Yeah.
completely blew up. Even though I thought they were favored to win.
Yeah, it's such. I mean, Virginia was fourth, Villanova was fifth. I mean, Martin did his best, but I mean, he was trying to make up for a 150, 800 leg, and I mean, when everybody else is running 146, 148, like that, he did everything he could to get them back in that race. But yeah, A&M continues to just be super strong, and Cooper Cothra, I mean, continues to be one of the more underrated guys in the country. He took the lead. Obviously, losing to Nathan Green, nothing to sniff at. I think it would have been nice to see him hold off Harrison, but at the end of the day, third place performance against this field, very very strong performance for them.
I feel like there's not a lot to talk about with this race.
Why didn't Georgetown run? Or was Mitsatsa running other relays? Was
They
he
ran the
running more of the swim?
SMR and 4x8.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay,
Yeah.
I know he did 4x8 because it's like you put Mitsatsa in this, and I would have loved to see Teffra go toe to toe with Green again. I think
Well,
that
if
would
you,
have
you
been
put
a good
Matsatsa
opportunity.
in that relay, you drop 4 seconds on the 800-meter leg, you win.
Right, exactly. I mean,
Or you're
yeah, who
crossing the
knows if
line
they
the
win? But
same as
they're right
Green.
there. They're
Like,
right there, right? Yeah, it's
right.
like it's Teffra and Green going back and forth for it at the very end, which would have been thrilling.
Yeah. Or you put Angione. I don't even know what Angione ran, though. But yeah, regardless, I thought this was a nice race for Texas A&M in terms of validating um,
Yeah.
just like everything that happened. I thought Whitmarsh, it's a nice building block. I'm a big Santorum guy. And credit to Cawthora, he didn't just let them roll over him. You know, he
Hmm.
was competitive in the end. I know he got beat by Green and Harrison, but like it's just a little bit of nice validation to be like, hey, you're not just like a great mile talent who can run an occasionally great anchor leg. You know, like I thought it was a promising move, even if his split wasn't necessarily like amazing, but whatever.
Yep. Weird that I mean, I was surprised that Villanova wasn't more in this picture, right? I mean, you look at like you said, Langone ran a great split. Waukee didn't have his best split. And I think you could have expected a little bit more out of him, but yeah,
Well,
I mean,
it's their 400-meter leg. Their
yeah,
400-meter
that's
leg
true.
got
Yeah,
got caught. I mean, you run 48.87. That's the slowest. That's the third slowest split in the field, and the only two men who were slower than him were the final two teams in the results. So like, you have to be better. You can't run 48.87 and then have Texas A&M run 45.83, a full 3 seconds on the foreleg.
yeah, but they were only a quarter of a second behind Washington after that. Like, it's not as if they weren't in
You're what?
position.
Listen,
Like going it,
Waukee needs to run better.
yeah.
Waukee 100% needs to run better. But if you're a 400 leg and you give up 3 seconds to another team, nah, sorry, it doesn't work. It doesn't fly. You need to be better.
Yeah.
Waukee needed to be better too, in fairness. But um, it's like that Oregon DMR that happened earlier this season, where they had a 49 split, I think.
Yeah. I forgot about that. And they still ran what, like
And they're still in
919 or
something
something.
crazy good. They qualified for the national meet. So, um, okay, let's move off of that. Women's DMR. This was a very fun race. Very, very fun. You think for a minute there that Providence is going to run away with this.
Hmm.
And then in one of the most impressive anchor legs I've ever seen, point blank period,
Yep.
Margot Appleton splits. Did you see what she split?
I'm just now seeing it right now. This is wild. I knew it was a good leg. I didn't know it was this good.
421.46 to defeat Kimberly May, who split 424. Last year, we the women's DMR blew us away with an incredible handful of splits here, and I want to talk about this. What would they split? What did she split? Yeah, Maya Ramsden split 4:21, 4:7 in the DMR last year. And
And Appleton was 1/100th of a second faster. That's crazy.
yeah, so I have no idea. Like, where do you even want to go with this? Like, how do you even
Yeah,
talk
and
about
this
this?
this is why this validates me always being a really big Margot Appleton fan, always like predicting her super high and whenever, and considering her one of the favorites, because there's flashes like this and it's so good. And when she's on her game, there really is very few people that can beat her. And I mean, a 4:21 split. Ramsden is the best like equivalent, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's a Ramsden-esque kind of performance of just
Yeah,
utter dominance and a complete being in a completely different tier than everyone else in the NCAA, and that's that kind of performance. Like they're really, I mean, you can't name more than 5 people who could put together a 4:21 anchor split in the country right now.
no,
And for her to do that again, I will come in as probably over enthusiastic on her when it comes to the outdoor national meet, but it's because of moments like this. I mean, she played this race so well. She caught up and then was just patient, sitting at like 170 meters left to go. You thought, oh, that's a little bit of a gap. That's like it looks like she's kind of letting the rope go, and then she closes it in like 70 meters, and then in the last 100 is able to inch ahead. And I mean, there probably isn't a better relay split this weekend than what Appleton was able to do.
no, no, there was not. I'm going to quickly list off a few women. You tell me if you think they could split 4:21 on an anchor leg. Okay, Solana Yildiz. Ben, she's the indoor mile collegiate record holder.
I know, but she ran what? It was 4:24. This is 3
4:23.
seconds. 4:23. Okay, yes, sure.
Grace Hartman,
No,
Melissa Riggins,
no,
Laura Pellicaro,
no.
Wilma Nilsson,
Yeah, I think she could.
Riley Chamberlain,
No, that's too fast.
Chloe Forster.
I think maybe she could in the form that
I
she's in
I,
now.
I would argue that Chamberlain could. That's where I'll cut off that conversation. Um, could May on a different day split 4:21?
No, no. If she was in slightly different form, and again, splitting 4:24 is not bad. It's great, but like
Yeah.
she's just been she hasn't looked like she's at like peak fitness right now. So maybe she could at some point, maybe in a couple like in a month or so she could.
This field in general wasn't great. But
Yeah.
again, I just want to emphasize that Flockhart split 3:18, and she was such a crucial reason. Like, I think Flockhart was the MVP of the entire weekend altogether. Appleton, you could say she's number two just because of that split, but Virginia after the DMR was just not a factor. But Providence, I thought Providence just ran exceptionally well this weekend, and I think it's because of Flockhart was a big reason because of that. Chloe Scrimger splitting
Yeah.
4:27 on the anchor leg. Do we like what does when you see a performance like that and it's a split? It comes in a weird race like the DMR on an outdoor track, but she's a long distance specialist. Like, what does that tell you? Like, how do you interpret a result like that for someone who's so aerobic centric like Scrimger?
Yeah, I think it just is another indicator that the needle is pointing up for her, right? I think what I said last week after her 15:05 is it had felt like the NCAA had kind of passed her by a little bit, right?
Mm,
She was still one of the best runners in the country running good times, but she wasn't running relative to what the rest of the NCAA was doing, the same level of times that she was doing before, and we saw that with her national championship performance. It was good, but it wasn't what we've maybe come to expect from her.
right.
15:05, 4:27. That tells me, hey, she has taken a leap forward in fitness. And what the 4:27 says specifically is, hey, she can be someone that is able to contend in those last couple of laps of those more long distance races. She really has traditionally been someone, hey, just needs to put herself in that situation where she just can't be caught. Now I think you're talking about someone who can be catching people in those last 400, 800 meters.
I really like that take. I think it's an excellent take. Yeah, I agree. Clemson, fourth place. I thought they had a decent weekend. They can't race tactically. They just don't know how to. But there are they.
Bryn
But they're just
Sumner, Bryn Sumner,
Bryn Sumner ran.
319.
Bryn Sumner has run quite well as of late, and I'll credit to her. In general, Chip Nagedich, Jalego, Kosgei cannot run tactically. But are they so supremely fit that it doesn't, like, to some extent it doesn't matter. Like, if you want to win this race, you need to be better tactically.
Yeah.
But to be a top team as they were in the 4x8, to be a top team as they were, I don't even know if they were in the 4x mile, but I don't think so. But I thought they had like a nice weekend. So like, hey, this talent can come together and be conducive to like a quick relay. Kosgei split 429. So I thought they ran quite well. And I'm not gonna lie, there's a part of me that's like, if Chip Nagedich was on that 800-meter leg or the opening
Yeah.
leg, does this change the results?
Yeah. I mean, they certainly finish at least third, right?
Yeah.
It's whether or not they're able to disrupt those top two, and that would have been a really interesting race, right? I mean, Chepnogorich is someone that absolutely like probably would have just, if she was right behind there, would have just sat on them and could have blown by either of those women, honestly.
Let's move off of that and we will wrap it with the 4x8. The 4x8. We'll talk about that. Let's go to the men's side. A thriller.
Yes.
Excellent race. Would you call this race a classic?
No, I think you need just the names involved are like, I think part of what made the Cheserek Williams battle was
It's
the names
Cheserek
involved.
Williams.
It's
Yeah.
it's a little like these are good names, but they're not like, hey, you're gonna look back at this race and remember these guys in a couple years necessarily. But yeah, Abel Teffra dropping down in distance is the anchor for Georgetown, overtakes Matthew Erickson for the win. Georgetown beating Oregon. Michigan putting together a very, very nice performance for third, and Penn State in fourth. All four teams all had a shot going into the last lap. It did take a hard push from Michigan and Penn State to catch up with Oregon and Georgetown, so it was unlikely that they were ever going to have enough gas to be able to surpass them. But valiant effort from, I think it was Brendan Herger for Michigan, and Handel Robant. Like, again, another solid performance from him. But I think this was all came down to the Teffra Erickson duel.
Shout out to Texas A&M, who got 8th place. They ran 7:26, which is 13 seconds behind, a little less than 13 seconds.
158 start.
But they dropped the baton on that opening leg, which resulted, like you said, in a 158 split. And they split 152 on the second leg. So, like,
how did Cawthorne split 152?
I don't know.
That's
probably because he can only do so much if he's trying to play catch up. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, yeah. That's like, for someone who can.
He did put himself in a deficit, which is crazy. Brian Kiwa, by the way, split 145 for Clemson. They got second to last.
Well, they had a 203 anchor, so that's tough.
Not great, Bob. But Georgetown wins. I mean, like, great. I thought Matsatsa ran phenomenally. He tried catching Katotwe Kadali, who had a fantastic split of his own. He looked like he was out of gas at 200 meters to go, and he just kept pushing, kind of thing. I thought Oregon just ran exceptionally well. They've got some younger guys, and then I like that they put Erickson on the anchor leg. But I thought Teffra was smart. Like, there was some movement in that final 100 meters where, like, I'm like, oh, Teffra's not going to be able to get out. And then there's just, it's like the
sea kind of parted.
Yeah, the sea parted. And all of a sudden it's like, here you go. Like, it was Teffra's win. And I felt bad because I thought Erickson played it really well. I thought he played it really, really well. I don't really know how much better he could have done in terms of keeping his position, charging when he needed to, fending off the fights. And but Teffra's, man, that close, the second close, where I'm like, that's going to help you tactically on the national stage. That's going to be really helpful. So great runs. Michigan It's great running by them. Like there wasn't really a flashy anchor leg or anything like that, but like they put together just a solid relay across the board. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the names for Michigan versus Penn State, and it's just stunning that Michigan beat Penn State. Like you're talking about what, three guys who made the national meet in the 800 for Penn State going against zero, and Michigan was able to beat them.
If why would Darius Smallwood goes out and is just the aggressor right away, gets caught 150 split, 150.57, I should say. If he has a smarter race, can Penn State win this?
I thought it was the Desmueles split. That was what killed them ultimately. I mean, 149 there. I think that's what hurt them honestly most. Like if he, I mean, even if he just runs 148, right, and puts them in a position where they're right there with Georgetown, and they're not having to, and Robant isn't having to feel like he has to make up 2 seconds over the course of 400 meters. Like I think that then there's potential for them to win this race. Like I think Smallwood, I mean, he ultimately was like a second behind Michigan and like and basically right in line with Georgetown after that first leg. Like it wasn't great, but I don't think they lost it there.
Okay, I'm not sure if I entirely agree with that, but okay, all right, fair enough. Let's wrap it up. Let's call it with the women. Women's 4x8. I can. So I don't know how to talk about this race.
I mean, the times just feel so weird to look at. One, like the splits in general, it's like no one's running faster than I think 201, 202 for any of these like first three teams.
Like the opening leg was the fastest split was 205.18 by Bryn Sumner of Clemson.
Yeah, who
Hudson ran
again
exceptionally well.
did really well this weekend.
I
It
agree.
was a really good performance from her. Yeah, the last leg was so tactical. It was just, I mean, it was Chepnogorich and it was Makayla Paige. It was going to be one of those two. Sophie O'Sullivan did her best to claw her way back in it, but even she ran to it like you watch it and you look and you're like, oh, so O'Sullivan must have run like 202 or 201, like something pretty quick, just the way that she was able to catch up and then kind of hang in there. But it was a 205. Makayla Paige, though, that kick with like 100 meters to go, that was the most like Strand like kick I think I've seen, or Nathan Green like kick I've seen outside of out of those two athletes this year. It was ferocious. I mean, the turnover, the acceleration, the speed, everything. It was really cool to watch.
I mean, if I'm Makayla Paige and I get that baton, right, it takes everything in my power for me not to just like whisper over to the runner in front of me, like, it's over. You can give up now. Like, she got the baton. She's right on Chepnogorich. And for as talented as Chepnogorich is tactically, and the times at Penn Relays is always slower
Yeah.
because you have to run on the wider turn, right? People don't know that. You have to run on a wider turn in Franklin Field.
Rain, they're in like what,
The,
lane
yeah,
three,
the,
lane four?
yeah, they're in lane 3. So it's a wider turn. And usually the weather's not great. There's always rain, as there was this past. I don't know if this race was specifically impacted by rain, but it all comes down to tactics. And Paige was always going to be the better tactician. She got the baton. I was like, this race is over. This race is over. This was not going to be lost by UNC as long as Paige got it within striking distance. And sure enough, like,
Yeah, I mean, I thought Chepnogorich's best route to victory was just pedal to the metal, right?
yeah,
Just try to
yeah.
lose her as fast as you can. Like you just ran 159, try to run 159. Like that's a tall order, but like to run away from the NCAA champ, you're going to have to just try. If it comes down to a sprint finish, we know how that's going to finish. So like that was I think that was the mistake of just trying to take it easy and then try to push hard in the last 200. That was just never going to be a winning strategy over Paige.
And tactically, the rest of this UNC lineup ran very well. Like Massarelli
Mhm.
hung around longer than I thought she would. Taryn Parks splitting 202 flat. is a really good split. It's one of the best splits of the entire race.
Yeah, second
Forster,
fastest, I think.
yeah, it's something like that. And so Forster ran 2:01, I think, is the fastest split. But you kind of go down the list, and I'm like, Alyssa Hernandez takes over from Sylvia Jalego, right, and a handful of others, and I'm just like, man, credit North Carolina's Taryn Parks and Makayla Paige for what they did, but Massarelli and Hernandez were almost just as important reasons why UNC was able to stay in the mix than Paige bringing it home.
Yeah, absolutely. It was surprising to see how close to the leaders they were. They were giving it to Paige, because you look at this lineup and you're like, it's not a lineup that you think is going to be giving the baton to Paige basically in the lead, and that's all you could have asked for if you're in North Carolina.
I agree. Ben,
That's it.
I think that's it. Nice job. I always love Penn relays. Again, we're
Is.
biased. We're
Yeah,
Philly guys, but
it's the
I like
best.
it. Yeah.
It's again, you throw times out the window and it's just pure racing. And when the fields are this good, it's all the more exciting. You get kind of these national championship previews, and we got to see that, right? We got to see a lot of athletes who are going to be going head to head, and favorites in their event going head to head, and you kind of get a little bit of a preview in a way that you wouldn't have otherwise. You see everybody's cards kind of you have to tell the truth in these kind of races about how you feel about your fitness, right? You can't hide. We just had the NFL draft, and it's like, hey, you can lie up into the NFL draft, but when you pick someone, you have to you're telling the truth, because this is who you think is the best person for your team. When you're running a 4x mile and you get the baton and you look over and the 2 or 3 men or women next to you, and you don't feel confident in your ability to outrun them, you're telling the truth in that scenario. And I think we saw that for a lot of these athletes, which was really interesting.
What was that line? You have to tell the truth?
Yeah.
I love that line. That's such a good line. I love that. I'm going to steal that for one of the articles nowadays. You have to tell the truth. Real quick, Shedeur Sanders, were you surprised he dropped that far?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I didn't think he would go in the first, but I thought it would have been stunning to see him fall out of the second. And
so we're listening to this. I thought the Steelers were going to get him. I was convinced at some point. If they didn't get him the first, they were going to give him the third. They didn't have a second. How do I put this? I believe the Steelers did not draft a quarterback in the top half of the draft. They did like at the tail end, right? Because I believe Rodgers is still hurt. Aaron Rodgers is still hurt from when the Packers drafted Jordan Love. Oh, hey, hang with me. From when they drafted Jordan Love back when they were like a title-ready team or close to it, and they needed like one more piece, and then they drafted Jordan Love instead of getting Rodgers like another weapon. So what Rodgers is now saying is like leverage, is saying, I will sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers as long as you don't draft my replacement and instead bring in more weapons. I will say in the next week, Aaron Rodgers is a Steeler.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the last chair on the dance floor, right? I mean, it's like that's
it's a matter of if he wants to be a Steeler.
Yeah. Well, it's whether or not he wants to play football. If he wants to play football, that's really the last the play.
I think he wants to play football. I think he just wants to do things on his terms, which is the least surprising thing ever.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think the more likely thing on the Steelers end is they just didn't like any of the quarterbacks, and they were like, we're not going to waste a draft pick when next year's class is much better. But any Rodgers like conspiracy or just like wanting to move the puzzle, like the chess pieces, I completely buy, because that's the way he is.
All right, that's it. That's our football talk for the podcast. All right, Ben, that's all I got. Go check out the YouTube interviews that we had. Awesome job by Lauren Colley. Appreciate you, Lauren. Photos from Sean Ahern. I'm not sure if we'll have a photo album. I think we will. But shout out to Sean. Go check it all out. Stay tuned on the site for content. And that's all I got.
All right. Well, until next week, Garrett, I'll talk to you.
I'll talk to you.